Hello, my friends. I'm Sam Hardesty, a certified life coach, and welcome to the Authentic Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey, howdy, friends. I'm so excited for today's podcast episode. I have guest speaker Kaelyn on, and this episode is going to be one to listen into. I love how she just speaks into, I know this is going to sound silly, but like just an everyday woman living out her dreams. And this is, I don't know, I guess it just really brings it home of like, you always feel like there has to be this catalyst for why you start a business. And to some degree, there's these little events that lead you on your way there. But she just had this this vision for herself, and she just did it. So this is gonna be so fun, guys. From a very young age, Kaelyn knew she wanted to be an artist, but she was also worried about the real world and just the financial practicality of becoming one. But as a lost and burnout 9-to-5er, Kaelyn knew she was meant for so much more than the supposed American dream. Though she started her career as a graphic designer, Kaelyn went on to foster her love for all things makeup and beauty through the starting of a personal blog and a YouTube channel. So this led her to eventually stumble into her God-given talent of transforming brides in their bridal parties for their wedding day. This talent paved the way for her freelance makeup artistry company named MyFairMakeup Artistry LLC. Inspired by her original blog and her signature fair-skinned features, Kaelyn and her company have grown to become one of the most luxurious bridal makeup experiences in Northeast Ohio, catering to all ages, skin tones, and skin types. With their slogan, "We create custom, timeless, and confident makeup transformations for the modern bride." She is fabulous. Kaelyn is one of those women that, like, if she wants to learn something, she will learn it. And there's no like, I don't know, ego about it. It's just like, I don't know, let's find out together. And it's so fun to witness all the things that she does and how much like confidence she brings to her clients just by like just simply showcasing their features, not making them into someone that like they're not, but just her showing more of themselves. So I hope you guys really enjoy this interview with Kaelyn. Let me know what you think and have fun. All right. Hey, Kaelyn, how's it going?
Hey, Sam, it's going good. How about yourself?
Great. So I'm so excited about today. I'm really excited that you took the time to hop on the podcast here. So tell us more about you, essentially. So how you got started, pretty much your whole life story would be great. So
An abbreviated version in a little bit of time. So thank you so much. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me on. This is actually my first podcast I've ever done, and I'm so excited because that was definitely a goal of mine.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
At some point, I think I talked about it probably in the new year or something like that, but I was so excited to be asked onto the podcast today because I definitely want to be doing a lot more of these. So again, thank you so much. So abbreviated life story. So I am the daughter of two entrepreneurs, funny enough. My mom and my dad both own their own businesses and have so for many, many years. They definitely started out in more of the corporate America kind of space. However, they eventually, like I said, went on to become their own bosses. So I think it was just kind of in my blood to become one as well. Trust me, I fought hard against it, but so I was born in Northeast Ohio. I consider myself a Clevelander my entire life. I knew from a very young age I wanted to be an artist. I was always constantly coloring and drawing and presenting, gifts to others, like creative gifts, like again, my artwork, or I like to be a little bit craftier when I was younger, not so much now as an adult, but yeah, so I kind of always knew I had this knack for it. I had this natural ability for it, and I loved it. Once I got to high school, I really started nurturing that creative side, that artistic side. I took every art class I possibly could. When I didn't really need study hall that much because high school wasn't too hard for me. So I would take my study halls and be in the art room, just working and doing independent work. And it was great. I loved really, like, my favorite mediums is definitely like painting. I love watercolor. Watercolor is probably my favorite, but like I dabbled a little bit in oil and obviously tempera and other stuff too. But I love to work with my hands. That's what I realized. But there was just this kind of overarching sense, like, this is a talent that I love. I want to do something with, but we grew up in a generation where our parents were like, oh, that's great. Like, we want to nurture that for you, but you also need to make it practical. So, yeah, so I took that as, well, graphic design could be a route to go. So I actually started taking some graphic design classes in high school. And I truly did fall in love with it. It just was kind of a different medium to explore at that point. So going into college, that's why I decided to major in, was at my school, it was called Visual Communication and Design, aka graphic design. And I got a minor in PR and marketing. So nice things that help you be a business person later on. But yeah, so I kind of really threw my focus into graphic design. At the time too, graphic design was very much kind of mostly a 2D world. You're kind of working in print design, designing in the flat, and kind of is what it is. So my first job out of college, I worked at a business to business magazine, and I loved it because it was, it gave me a work structure, which I feel like, a lot of people thrive in structure, especially like creative types. We kind of need some structure to stay kind of grounded. But I was able still to be creative in that job and kind of really flex my skill set and really start to specialize in certain things, which I always take a lot of pride in. From there, I decided to leave that company, and I actually went and worked for my dad for a little bit. And when I worked for him, while I was still doing a lot of design work, I ended up doing a lot more PR and marketing work, which, hindsight 2020, personally, I love marketing and doing different, like, that kind of stuff for my own business. But when you work in a business that you're not always the most passionate about, it's really hard. So yeah, like I said, while I was doing some design work and whatnot, I felt like I was doing a lot more of the other stuff that I just wasn't as passionate about. So I ended up stopping working with my dad, like, on a full-time basis. I still do, some design stuff for him here and there. But my last job before I decided to go full-time with my business, and kind of to backtrack a little bit, I discovered makeup artistry as a career kind of around the time of my first job. It was kind of towards the end of it. It was just kind of like a very opportune time. And at the time, because I had a 9-to-5 job, while I really wanted to pursue it was great side hustle money. Let me tell you, it was amazing side hustle money. I loved it. Because it was like money you could sock away for just all the extras, and you didn't have to worry about it, because being a makeup artist, especially once you get a lot of years under your belt, you make really good money in like short amount of like work time frames. So outside of being like in medicine or something, it's hard to imagine many careers that you make the amount of money you do as a makeup artist in such a small amount of time that you're working. But anyway, so like I said, I discovered that this is what I wanted to do, at least as a side hustle. I met a girl who, that's all she did. She loved her 9-to-5 job, but she also was very passionate about being a makeup artist as well. So she just did weddings and event makeup during the weekends, because it was just kind of her and her boyfriend at the time. So I shadowed underneath her for about 1.5 years, really just learning how to run a makeup business. 'Cause there is a lot of learning curve behind it. It's, to take it seriously and to make sure that you're giving the best customer service possible, that you're not setting yourself up to fail. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I probably could do a whole podcast just on that subject alone. but yeah, so like I said, I shadowed underneath her for, I would say, about a year, maybe a year and a half. And then I started taking my own clients after that. And really how I started out was just her and other artists that I had made connections with, just kind of like pushing their like people that they couldn't physically take off onto me. And that's kind of how I started building my first clientele structure. And then shortly after that, I did start investing in stuff like advertising on the Knot and Wedding Wire, which is like a giant mecca of a website that brides use to help plan their wedding, and that's how they find a lot of their vendors. You also start making, industry connections. Just the more that you work, you make friends with photographers, you make friends with wedding planners, you make friends with people that then refer you out because they also love your work. And then also too, once you start really building up your clientele and working with them, and if you do a great job, they're going to start referring you by word of mouth to everyone else as well. So I get tons of word of mouth referrals as well still. I just literally took a call yesterday with a client that was a previous bride of mine from last March. So, or maybe even this March. The years run together at some point. So. But yeah, so
Totally fair.
yeah, so then now fast track back to my normal 9 to 5. So I went into like my last corporate job, and it just wasn't a good fit for me. I ended up going to a company where I did just specialize, or I did just like kind of transition back into design. However, it was 3D design because this place I worked for was like an interactive display company. So this company is building and designing displays that go in retailers that customers can interact with. And while my department still worked mostly in just like flat, design work, you had to think in 3D because it has to go on something that has actual structure to it. It's not just flat. So that was really hard for me. And I would have to say probably one of my, I wouldn't even call it a flaw, but one of my struggles that I've always, if I'm not like really, if I don't excel at something right away, it's really hard for me. Like it's a hard mental process for me. So it was something I just didn't really excel at right away. I could kind of dabble here and there, but ultimately towards the end of my career at that job anyways, it was like, I kind of was like a glorified basic graphic designer. Like I was doing PowerPoint presentations. I was doing stuff that's like, okay, like obviously I'm not using my degree here. I mean, it's easy enough work, but I wasn't feeling challenged or excited to go to work every day or anything like that. So at that point it was, life kind of was a good balance at that point. I didn't have a lot of debt. I didn't have a son at that point, so no responsibilities really. Like it was kind of a perfect time of like, if we're going to go all in, we might as well try it right now. So, and I'm so sorry, I can probably send this to you after the fact. You could put it in the notes, but, I went full time that year, and I can't remember exactly what year it was, but, I went full time that year, and it was Memorial Day weekend of that year because the first wedding I had coming out of like corporate America was one of my really good friends' weddings. So it's like, if I could go back and see their wedding anniversary, I could tell you the year. But yeah, in general, I've been in business now, from start to finish for a little over 10 years. So it's been a minute in the field, and this is definitely a career that you could burn out quickly and you could get discouraged quickly, because it's a lot of hard work. While it is very fun and creative, and you do beautiful things and you work with great people sometimes, and you get to, again, your work of art gets to be worn on someone's face, which is pretty awesome throughout the day. It could be a very taxing career. So it's not for the faint of heart.
I love it. That sounds really exciting though. Just your progression to where you are now. Like you had to do those things to get to where you're at and doing what you love to do every day. So that's super fun to see. Okay, so I have a funny question for you. Hey guys, I wanted to pause real quick and offer you guys access to my monthly email newsletter. This is something that I send out monthly. There's no like every other day email. It's literally just once a month email, but it gives you a full recap of everything that I am up to. everything that I'm doing, all of my offers, my podcast, my YouTube channel, any community events that I'm participating in or that I think are just super fun. You can learn about my Let's Start group coaching program. You can learn tips and tools monthly to help you also self-coach. So this is a free tool for you guys. Feel free to sign up, please, on my website at www.samhardistycoaching.com. That's Sam Hardesty, HARDESTY, coaching.com. Thank you so much, and I hope to connect with you there.
Well, I'm assuming the answer is going to be funny. Okay, what is the most inappropriate situation you laughed at?
At work or in general?
Just in general, like no requirements to this answer.
Oh my goodness. That's a hard one to come up with off the top of my head. I'm just going to throw this out because I'm sure it was a situation like this. I have a very, very morbid sense of humor. Like, I'm someone that can crack a joke at a funeral. So I'm sure that honestly it was probably something like that, or I'll hear like a horror story from a client and like maybe I snigger a little bit, but I like try to reel it back in because it's actually serious. I've heard some good stuff from clients. I always say that someday, if I don't lose my mind first, hopefully I'll get to write a memoir of, keep everyone anonymous, but write a memoir of like, I'll have to call it the client confessionals behind the chair or something like that, because it's just the craziest things. But that's also a good sign of someone being comfortable with you if they feel like they can open up and kind of confide in you about stuff too. So, but I can almost guarantee it was probably something morbid or that I found funny, because I could find funny in that kind of very messed up stuff. I'm sorry, that's not like I'm sure that's like not as really spilling tea or a juicy answer. I can't really. The only other thing I can think of is sometimes my stomach is just like it takes over my brain, and I'll be in a situation where I probably should be being a lot more professional, and I'm like shoving food in my face. So that's the only other thing I could think of.
I love it. Yeah, no, that's hysterical. No, but now I'm very intrigued. Whenever this book you're gonna write, it's gonna come out, because I need to hear all the other people's tea, like all the things about them. It's interesting. You hear some crazy stories though.
You do, and honestly though, like I would say of like in the 90th percentile, if not, like really high percent, I have awesome clients because I do a lot of work to make sure I'm attracting the right ones. So while there is crazy stuff that happens and crazy stuff that I hear, I probably need a couple more years under my belt before I would have like a full book's worth of things I can actually divulge.
That is totally fair. I love it. All right. Okay, so I want to know what it's like being both a mom and a business owner. Like, what does your days look like? What is there things that you constantly worry about? Like, what's it like, or other, what's it like being a mom and a business owner?
It's like this every day. No, so it's really, so I'm going to start out with a positive. It's very rewarding because once you become a parent, not that your entire life should center around your children, but they become a very pivotal part of what your future goals should be. So it's really cool to be able to really kind of solidify a lot of goals that I like always had in the back of my mind, but can never give you a good, like, this is the reason why kind of a thing. But so just to kind of, jump ahead and divulge a little bit, a big project I'm working on right now is I'm starting to recruit other artists to work underneath my company as subcontractors. And the whole ultimate goal behind that is so that I'm able personally to take a little bit more of a step back from servicing myself as much. So I'm able to just kind of work behind the scenes, because I know just as a timeline how it goes with children is he's a very active boy. He's gonna want to play sports. He's gonna want to do things, and I personally want him to do those things. I want him to be out there, but I also want to see him do it. I don't want my parents or a babysitter or anybody else raising my child. I want to be there for all those experiences, and that's going to require me servicing less and less and less, and sending out more and more artists so that I'm still able to pay the bills at the end of the day. And then I'm also giving work to other artists that want to build their portfolio and also want to make great money themselves. So it's a win-win all the way around. You just have to do the work to recruit those people to start with. So I guess generally how my weeks tend to work. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, my son goes to daycare, which is great because those are like my bust out work days. And then also too, on the weekends, he either goes with his dad for a couple, usually every other weekend. Some weekends, like my mom pretty much, once he started becoming more of a little human, was like, I would really love to have him like 1 week in a month. So she'll usually take him 1 week in a month for me. So I get that little bit of time as well. So I do have tons of support and tons of help, which is like absolutely crucial to me being able to do what I do for sure. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday tend to be my like busy, like you got to get work done kind of days. Tuesdays and Thursdays, he is home with me. He's actually napping right now. So that's why I always take stuff in the afternoons on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays, they generally have to be lighter days for me because as he's only 2.5 right now, toddlers require a lot of attention. It's a little bit like when he was really, really little and just kind of a bean, like he could get a little bit more done. He's at a stage now. He constantly wants your attention. He constantly wants to play, and that's totally fine. And I want to honor that. And I want to be part of those experiences. So I've just really tried to tailor my schedule to Tuesdays and Thursdays being lighter days. Like, it might be a quick social media post in the morning, monitoring emails, and then I'll take maybe some client calls or stuff in the afternoons. But again, it has to be flexible because there's days that he doesn't nap. So yeah,
becoming a big boy.
But yeah. But yeah, so that's generally how I structure my weeks. And then weddings typically are on Saturdays. Sometimes you'll get Fridays and Sundays. So it's always a balancing act, trying to find out care for him or trying to figure out care for him. But we always make it work. I always, like I said, I have a wonderful support structure around me. And I would say being an entrepreneur can be done no matter what, either way. You should never have that kind of notion in your head hold you back, because you need to nurture and foster your talents and your creativity and everything as well. And you should be able to monetize it for sure. But life is a lot easier when you have a support structure around you for sure.
So what's some advice you would give to someone who wants to start a family, but they have a business? Like what advice would you give them in that process?
Yeah. So, it's lots of little advice. I would say if you're like kind of a planner, I would say as best as you can. And I'm not the one to give this advice because I'm terrible at it. But if you really want to start a family and you kind of have like a time structure to work with, or you're like, we'll start trying at this point, like just start socking away money, because something that I definitely, I guess we'll say regret, but it just was what it was, and it was a sign of the times. I did not take as long of a maternity leave as I wanted to. My son was born at the beginning of March, so I took all of March off and a little bit of April. But I had my son in 2021, so I was pregnant all of 2020. So while that was a blessing in that I didn't have to work as much being pregnant, there was stuff that rescheduled even before I knew I was pregnant to 2021. And it's like, well, I can't cancel on this person because I've already worked. That's always the hard part with working in the wedding industry, is you tend to book so far out that you kind of really have to plan a lot of things in advance. But, had I been able to sock away a little bit of money, I could have, maybe worked those couple things, but then taken even a little bit more time off when I didn't have other things booked. So having that bit of cushion to work with and to just feel secure in, can help you, like, especially if you're a mom that's wanting to take a little bit more time off and spend more time with your kids. So I think that that's very important. I mean, biggest piece, like overall arching piece of advice is, if you really feel passionate about starting a business and if it's something that's just a calling for you, just don't let anything hold you back. Don't let everything can be figured out. Having a family, especially like having kids in general, there's no manual behind it, even though there truly is no real manual behind it. Every day is a figuring it out as you go kind of a thing. So, there's days that it's, I look at my schedule and I'm like, wow, why do I do this to myself all the time? But I love my business. Obviously, I love my son, and I figure out ways to make it work. Or, there might be a day, I can't take the work this day. This just isn't going to happen. And I have to give myself that boundary. So I guess that would be another piece of advice is, and you'll probably learn them more along your way, but don't be afraid to set boundaries. It's still something I'm working on as an entrepreneur, but as you guys saw, like I have to structure my weeks accordingly because of my son's schedule. So I'm sorry, but I'm not taking appointments this because he's home with me, or if I don't have care that day, it's just not going to happen. I really try to set specific boundaries. Where I could get better with boundaries is with client communication and really funneling clients into, like, these are the time frames that I respond for certain things. I am kind of a little bit of a sucker to, again, the customer service aspect in my mind of like, well, you know what, if I'm available now, I will respond kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what's it like setting boundaries? Like how does that look like in your experience? And I know you kind of shared, what are some boundaries that you currently have in place? What are some that you want to implement more, and maybe more as to why boundaries? Why are those important?
Sure. So when it comes to, so I'll just start with like for an example, one of my boundaries is I will not take client calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays from, whatever normal business hours, 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock, because my son is awake during those times. And that boundary exists there because I can't think and have him in the background and be on the phone with somebody. It's too much. I've done it before. It's a tried and true and failed thing. I mean, if it's a worst case scenario and I need to take a client call and my son is in the background, I just, I throw out the disclaimer ahead of time. But for the most part, I feel like I work my best when I can be in more of a silent space and think and not have him in the background. And like I mentioned, he's constantly wanting my attention nowadays. So I really try to keep those firm boundaries, and also too, just for the sake of paying attention to him. Like, this is the time where we're building this relationship together where, he's relying on me and he's seeing me as a trusted person, and I'm his support right now. So again, I want to honor that, and I want to keep those boundaries there so that I'm giving him my attention and being present with him in those moments. Another pretty strict boundary for me is I do not answer emails over the weekend. Quite frankly, honestly, mostly it's because I'm working. So I'm obviously not answering emails while I work. But also too, keep in mind, even during off season, sometimes Sundays are the only days I get off. So I really like to stay not only pretty much email free, but mostly device free over the weekends. Sometimes on Saturdays, I'll post updates from like weddings and that kind of stuff. I have no problem with that, especially if it's just on stories. But I'm staying pretty device free and definitely email free during the weekends because I'm giving myself some time to recuperate and just mentally distance myself a little bit. Because when you work for yourself, especially if you work out of your house, it's always here all the time. Like, it's constantly in your brain, or it's constantly in your environment. So it's okay to give yourself a break sometimes. So I would say, like, I kind of also just answered your other question too, in that boundaries exist because it's something that you need to put in place to honor yourself and to if you don't put boundaries in place, you're going to burn out really quickly. You can't work all the time. You can't also exist in your work environment all the time. Like, you have to have some separation. And while technically, physically, I never have separation, I can mentally have separation from my phone and from my email over the weekends. And I'll get back to people on Monday or sometimes Tuesday, especially if it's during busy season. It's, that's also another, I guess, a little bit of a boundary I've made for myself. It's not a published boundary, but even though Mondays tend to be like my bigger work days, I use those as email catch-up days. And honestly, sometimes I take Mondays as slower days, especially if I had a really busy weekend. I almost treat it kind of like salons, how most salons are off on Mondays. So while I'm not technically off on Mondays, I do answer emails and do office work and stuff. I do try to make them a little less like project cluttered days where I have to do something, or I try to really not take appointments those days if I don't have to, because again, I try to like ease myself into the week. So yeah, does that answer all your questions of boundaries?
I think so. I love it. Okay, so your social media is like legit. All of your Instagram at the minimum is like fabulous. So what are some tips for us women entrepreneurs to start spicing up their social media lives? Or rather just their accounts, not their dating life.
No, I love talking into this because I've taken plenty of courses and I've learned a lot from a lot of people over times, because social media is one of those, like, I feel like it's one of those systems, like, either I know you either love it or hate it, but I also have this like middle ground where I'm like, I want to understand it and make it work for me, because I don't think it has to be something that you hate. Like, it could be something that is genuinely fun, and you don't have to be some like mega influencer to make it work for you. So if you guys log onto my social media, I don't have this giant 10,000 plus following, but I do have a very good social media, and I do get good traffic and good interaction on my social media because I really have curated it and worked it to my advantage. So a big thing I would say, and it might change at some point because social media is ever changing, but if you're not doing reels, you gotta be doing reels. I am definitely a stickler of, I don't like being on social media to post things and waste time or to waste my time. So I always feel like something that's actually worth my time to do is reels. And I love the fact that reels has evolved over time where it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to set aside hours and hours and hours to film ahead of time to then post them like I was in the beginning. Most of my reels now, I'm taking my own client made content that I just shot behind the scenes, putting some words and some music over it, writing a post, and it does well. You're going to get the biggest interaction, even if it's not huge. You're still going to get way more interaction on a reel than you do a static post. You're still going to get more interaction on a reel than you do a carousel. They don't even let you post regular videos anymore. They're all reels now. I've never really had a lot of success with lives. It's something I should probably explore a little bit more in the future, but you know what? I really kind of pour most of everything into reels, and that's what a majority of my grid is made up of, is reels, because it's eye-catching and people are able to really get a good sense of and be able to relate to, especially if it's like a client video, like they could put themselves in that person's shoes because they're relating to it because it looks real, and it's definitely real life footage. And also, too, a big part of being an entrepreneur and your business in general is optimizing your bio, because people need to know as soon as they click on there, your bio is kind of like your first impression. So if they click on there and they have no idea like what your business is about or what you're about or what you do or can offer them, they're going to click off because they're confused and they don't know how to buy from you, essentially. So you really want to optimize your bio, get really clear cut on the exact customer that you're trying to attract. Get really clear cut on what your call to action is. Make sure in there that you are, throwing out if you have any awards or accolades or stuff that you can obviously use as self-promotion. Those are a couple things. If you guys go over to my Instagram bio, I have a very good example of what an optimized Instagram bio looks like. Of course, I'm on my phone right now, so I can't rattle it off for you, like, verbatim, but that's such an important part of Instagram, is really, again, structuring and making sure that people know exactly who you are, what you're about, and what you can do for them. And then something that I've recently started really adding into my social media strategy, and it's really truly worked wonders. It's like you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And I do have a couple tricks behind that I'm going to share today. But really getting interactive and a part of your stories. I always used to think like, oh, no one watches stories. Who cares? Like, such a wasted opportunity on, like, not wasted opportunity, but like a wasted feature on Instagram. But no, truly, like when I'm interactive on my stories, and by interactive, the true interaction that you want to be doing is educating your clients. So whatever facet of your business that you frequently get questions on, that you feel like you need to clarify, that you feel like you need to just educate your clients on or educate your future clients on, that's what you need to be jumping on stories and really getting across. There's other stuff too. I jump on there to shout out specific clients so that, everyone kind of loves that, like, special attention given. So, taking time to do that, taking time to congratulate clients, taking time to feature their, feature their photos, or, just making sure that clients feel that personal touch. But education, and just, again, part of education is still, throwing out that call to action there. So depending on what I'm talking about in my stories, one of the last, usually either the last slide or the last two slides, I really kind of really hone in on my call to action and what I want my clients to do. But also throughout stories, I'm throwing in little polls and different stuff. So again, you can really boost your interaction. And honestly, when I'm very active on stories, especially specifically about things, those call to actions tend to happen. So if I'm on there educating brides and really kind of pushing, like, this is bridal education content, but the call to action is, hey, you have a 2024 wedding, like, don't wait to book. Like, you need to be inquiring now. You need to, at the very least, shoot me a DM if you have a question. And when I'm very interactive on stories and I'm consistent on stories, consistency is the key. If I'm consistent on stories, those interactions happen, and those clients are reaching out to me, and they're DMing me, and my leads grow, and I'm getting a lot more emails for dates. So they do correlate. I promise it's not a wasted exercise. Similar when I'm trying to recruit for my business for other artists. Every time I put out content out there for growing my team, I sure as heck get people that message me like, hey, I just saw this. I would love this opportunity. Can we talk? So it's not a wasted effort, and it's not a wasted thing to do. But that being said, every single day, do I have makeup on my face? No. There's plenty of days where I am makeup free, but I still need to make content. And those days, and I'm going to give you, this is the biggest tip of, you hate being on camera. Like myself, I do not like being on camera if I don't have a face on, because I'm a makeup artist. This is what I do. So, but the days that I know I need to make content, I still know I need to be active on there. My favorite tip for you guys is, and honestly, I don't know why. I don't know if anyone knows why. Being in the car content, not driving, just go sit in your car, like pull out of the garage, be in sunlight so you have good lighting. But sit in your car like you're actively, look like you're doing something or going somewhere. Throw on some big sunglasses. Like maybe, put on something but a hood, other than a hoodie, but throw on some sunglasses, and then no one even knows you're wearing makeup because half your face is covered by sunglasses. I do that all the time when I know I still need to make content, but I don't feel like doing my makeup, and it gives you the confidence, because when you have the sunglasses on, no one can see that you have no makeup on. And it's just also it's almost like a mask you put on your face to, be able to put your big girl pants on, still make content, but not have to feel like you're, going to prom to do so. So that's probably my biggest tip for anybody that's like either nervous about making content, doesn't want to put makeup on the day. Just get in the car, make some fun content, throw some sunglasses on. Again, maybe wear a cute top. You can, you don't know what to see below. You can wear yoga pants below, but maybe like a nice top or something, and make that content and post it, and no one's the wiser. Trust me, I do it all the time.
I love it. That's so awesome. And I love that offer, like that option. You're still exactly like you said, you're still producing the content. You're still getting things off your to-do list, and you're still making progress, but it doesn't have to look a certain way. it gives you that flexibility and that freedom to still do what you said you were going to do and do it in a way that is honoring your needs in that moment, which might be a no makeup day, which is super, super cool. So speaking of makeup, hashtag this entire conversation, why is getting glammed up so important?
So I mean, I would just say that the big, just overall, no matter what the event or the occasion is, having makeup on and just, putting on nice clothes and having your hair look somewhat done. And, again, you don't have to look like you're going to prom, but having a hairstyle, even if it's throwing a straightener through your hair, having your makeup done, wearing a nice outfit, does wonders for your confidence. I mean, I don't like going, I don't like going to an event. I don't even like going like clothes shopping for myself if I don't kind of like have something going on, because if you go out into the world looking and feeling like a scrub, like what kind of message are you sending to others? So again, while even on a wedding day, you don't have to look like Malibu Barbie, or you don't have to look like Miss America. You could look like yourself. You could just look like an enhanced version of yourself. I can guarantee if you had someone doing your makeup that just enhanced your natural features, and you did obviously look better from before to after, but you didn't look like too much, you would feel a billion times more confident getting in that dress, supporting your friend on the most important day of their life, or even just going to the event in general. I mean, I think I take away is the biggest compliment when bridal party members are just snapping selfies all morning long once they're done with both hair and makeup. To me, that's like the biggest compliment, because if you want to commemorate and have photographic evidence of this look, then you must have loved it. And I also love it too when it doesn't even have to be work for me, but someone will snap a look that they liked that was done at another wedding, and it's genuinely them. And while those aren't always the best like example photos to use, because they're usually like looking at the camera, I can't actually tell what's on their face or anything. To me, that's like, okay, well, this is the kind of makeup they like. This is what they feel confident in. I know that they'll love this. I just need to make sure that I give them that same level, back towards this event as well.
That's honestly something I love about your style, is that like you can go to 0 to 100 and you have that option to scale it in whatever capacity that your client wants. Because there's people out there that like do not wear makeup. So to like go 100% full glam is very overwhelming, and it may not feel like their authentic self. So the fact that you can really scale it back, exactly like you said, just enhancing those natural features that you already have, I feel like at the end of the day provides that authenticity that they're looking for. And exactly, in general, just that's extra self-confidence. I think that is absolutely huge. I'm not going to lie. Like, yes, as a coach, I'm going to say, oh, well, you can create self-confidence within you. But I'm also not going to lie. When you are looking like a badass bitch, like, hell yeah, like things are on fire. Like, it is just such an awesome, awesome day. No one can tell you shit.
It's such an easier exercise to have confidence when you feel and look good.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's sure to create inner confidence, but it's much harder exercise unless you like, you feel like your best self and you look in a mirror and you're like, damn, I can really talk myself up today, versus like, oh wow, my hair is like looking like this, I'm in a hoodie and I haven't showered in 3 days, and yeah, I feel really good about myself.
Okay, so speaking of brides, tell me some tips that you would give to some brides. Maybe someone has a wedding coming up, or maybe they're about to work with you, whatever that looks like. But what are some just general tips that you see a lot of brides would benefit from?
Sure. So, funny, as I progress in my career, the tips change a little bit, but I will throw out just this blanket one, because I do still see this. It's like I said, it's gotten better over time with just general education and people putting a lot more, spending a lot more time and energy and money into better products. But having an established skincare routine is so important. So if you're, getting engaged and you're really wanting the optimal, you wanted to look like optimal for your wedding day. Like you want to have skin that is looks healthy, looks nice, doesn't have, you don't want like tons of acne flare up, or you don't want to look like super dry and cakey on your wedding day. Having an established skincare routine is so important. And it doesn't have to look like a 50-mile wide range of products to use. Like if you have a cleanser that's specific to your skin type, I always recommend a vitamin C serum. You could substitute in an exfoliator on the days that you don't do your regular cleanser, like maybe every other day or every couple days. If you're more of a normal skin and you don't really need to exfoliate a lot. Having a good moisturizer is so key. Using SPF is very, very, very important. Huge tip. Like, just use SPF, brides, I promise, because I cannot do anything if you get a sunburn and you are peeling. There is no makeup in the world that is going to stay on you, your face, your body if you are peeling. So just SPF.
Yeah.
But also too, those are kind of really like the backbones behind a good skincare. Obviously, I always recommend, if you have it in your budget, to be able to hire and visit regularly a good esthetician. They're the ones that are going to really give you like the nuts and bolts and personalized skincare program that you need. If you're not, visiting an esthetician, either, you could go to a dermatologist instead. Just find somebody that's going to help you on like a skincare plan that's just going to be optimal for your wedding day. I would say if you're someone that's really struggling with acne or like skin situations like that, obviously a dermatologist is probably the way to go. If you're someone that's just wanting to really upgrade or even start a skincare routine, but you don't have tons of skin issues that you're worried about, going more of the esthetician route is great as well. And obviously you can mix and match both or have both throughout the entire process. As far as other advice that I would give to brides, some like kind of just practical ones for your preview appointment, and then some general ones, just some more like mental clarity kind of ones. So in general, I always try to remember to tell my brides, one, come to your trial with styled hair. Again, even just run a straightener through it, or just don't come with a messy bun, because again, I don't think you're gonna like your look as much if you're wearing a hoodie and you have a messy bun and you feel frazzled and stuff. It's no matter how good a makeup I put on you, you're just only gonna feel like you're a quarter or half or whatever done. Like it just isn't optimal. So I always try to tell my brides, make sure you come with styled hair. Again, just throw a straightener through it. If you don't want to curl it or anything, it's totally fine. If you end up booking your hair trial the same day and come from that to the bridal or to the makeup appointment, that's great. It doesn't always end up working out that way, but sometimes it does. I also always recommend too wearing white in some way, shape, or form. Again, you don't have to show up in your wedding dress, but like wearing a white t-shirt, or even like I'll have brides that'll wear like if they come in the summer, they'll wear like a tank top that's like kind of the cut of their dress or whatever. So again, they kind of get a good idea, just a good visual idea behind it. Something that I've tossed around, and I might end up doing it next year, is just investing in a couple of bridal robes, so that when they come, it doesn't matter what they have on underneath. We'll just toss a white robe on you and you get a good idea behind it, because most of the time brides get ready in their robes anyways. So that kind of solves that problem as well. So look, I'm solving my own problems on our podcast.
Love it.
And then also too, just obviously coming to your preview appointment, no makeup on. You could do your skincare routine, obviously if you come in the evening, you obviously did it in the morning, but you could do your normal skincare routine. I don't recommend coming with nothing on besides do some kind of skincare, at least at the very least throw some moisturizer on, just because it really only helps with the whole makeup experience and making sure that your skin is ready for makeup. And then just some mental, just good things to have kind of in the back of your head. When you are kind of really deciding on the look or the how you want to go with your wedding day, like the look, even your hair and your makeup, a lot of times it can be kind of really centered around your look overall in general. Like, for example, if I have a bride that has a very whimsical dress that has lots of beading, lots of detail, lots of glitz and glamour to it, then I usually recommend let's do it doesn't have to be a super dramatic eye, but let's do a shimmery finish because that just has a very romantic vibe to it. Whereas if I have a bride that has a very simple silhouette, it's just kind of like a straight down sheet style, not a lot of detail or lace or anything with it. It just has a very like modern, sleek look. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's go all matte because that's really going to fit in with that whole modern style of everything. It's always going to look timeless in your photos, and this kind of seems to already be your personality type anyway. So let's just go this route. So I could steer clients that way, but usually I always have clients also come to the appointment a little bit prepared. So I always say either go on Pinterest, Google, or heck, I have a pretty extensive portfolio at this point. Go on my Instagram and just, be able to screenshot a couple of looks that you like or be able to save a couple of looks that you like so that we can talk about it during your appointment and really be able to decide like, okay, these are the actual elements I really like from this photo. I can look at it and be like, okay, well, what you like here, I can promise you is so filtered that that's not actually possible in reality, but here's how we can take that kind of, we can take that detail or that idea and make it like reality. Like this is what we can do. So I have the confidence in myself as an artist now to be able to do that. Newer artists that start out might not necessarily have that, but it does come with time. But also too, like limit it to 3 examples tops. Like I don't want to see a scrolling Instagram or a scrolling Pinterest board of ideas. It's at a certain point either everything starts to look the same or everything is different, and that doesn't help you actually narrow down what you want it to be. And then also treat the preview appointment as an opportunity to, and I give you multiple times that you get to see the look throughout the process and give feedback and stuff. So take that opportunity to actually give feedback. Unfortunately, our generation tends to be a generation that's very passive aggressive, and we don't like conflict at first. But we have no problem behind the scenes giving our opinion, and that doesn't always work. I would rather you give me your feedback and stuff along the way. I'm not offended. It's your face. You have to wear it all day long. So what I might be interpreting might not be what you interpret, and that's totally fine. That's why we work together, and that's why we do a preview appointment so that I make sure I know going into your wedding day, I have a game plan down and I know pretty much exactly what we're doing so that we can stay on schedule. However, use that time to give feedback, use that time to be able to really critique your look. Again, like I said, you're not offending me. I would rather you give feedback and us work along the way, and even if your appointment runs over a little bit, than for me to do something and give you the mirror and you be like, yay, it's great, and then you go home and you pick it apart. Like, that doesn't help me. That honestly makes my job much more stressful on the wedding day. So use the preview appointment definitely to your advantage.
Love that. Okay, so we talked about tips for brides. What are some tips for future makeup artists or someone that's just starting out as a makeup artist?
Yeah, so I guess biggest overarching, you got to start getting some tough skin. You're not always going to nail a look perfect right away. And how I was mentioning, or how we were talking about how I'm able to scale from 0 to 100, that took a lot of years in between. Because when I first started out, most people wanted the 100.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people down here in the 30s and 20s and whatnot. Everyone kind of wanted the 100. So over time, just with general pop culture and, just the way our society is, people are wanting to look like they're wearing less and less and less makeup. Like they know they need something, but they just kind of want natural enhanced touches. And it takes, honestly, for me personally, as an artist, it takes a lot for me to edit than it does for me to go to 100.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Now, I would say it's a little bit harder for me to go to 100 because I don't, even when people tell me they want 100, I don't actually believe them. So, because I know what 100 is.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that their version of 100 and my version of 100 are different. So I do somewhere in between still because you could always add. It's so much harder to take away.
That's fair.
The other big things, I would say if you're really going to be serious about starting a makeup artistry business, definitely make sure you form your LLC right away. That's what's going to protect you. Hopefully you don't ever get into a situation where you need that protection, but you might as well have it there just in case. Also, too, just from a do as I say, not as I do standpoint, because you're going to, especially if you do this full time, you're going to be paying taxes and stuff out of your business. You want to make sure that you are, out of everything that you make, you want to at least be setting aside 20% that in your mind, it's like, that's not my money, that's the government's money, so that you don't spend and then you get to tax time and you're like, shit. Also to, really make sure that you hire a good team behind you, and you're not going to necessarily be able to hire everyone right away, as far as, and I mean team, not even like artists underneath you, but like people to help you run your business. So pretty much right from the offset, big things that you need. Personally, for myself, I need a CPA. That is not how my brain works. I need someone to take all of that out of the equation and do it for me. It's not me. If that's something that you love to dabble with on the side and that's part of your business, great. It's not for me. So I had a CPA right away. It's also important to have a business attorney right away, because they're the ones that are going to help you actually draft your contracts. And again, just make sure you have all the legal things in place to protect yourself. And then I also went ahead and took care of getting business insurance right away for my business, for, again, protection's sake. Not even just for, like, something happens to a client, but if something happens to my stuff, if my house burns down, if my stuff gets stolen, like, there's just so many what ifs that can happen that if you don't protect yourself, you're screwed. So having those 3 people in place, like, right away, that's exactly what I did. And then later on, like, just this year, I hired a bookkeeper for myself, again, because that's not how my brain works. I was the shoebox receipt collector, and then I would spend 2 days, 3 days before taxes were due and get all that crap done. So now I don't have to do that anymore, which is wonderful.
Awesome.
That's worth every cent to have to worry about again. And then also too, like, if you take your business seriously, along the way, you're going to want to start growing as a business person and learning new skills. You're going to hire coaches. You're going to take courses. You're going to want to do all those things, because you're going to want this. You're going to have this general sense of, I know that there's more, and I know I can do more, and I want more for my business. So making sure that you are setting aside the funds to be able to honor yourself in that way and not go into a lot of debt to be able to grow your business.
Hey guys, I wanted to speak real quickly into what it's like to coach with me, to work with me. This is something that I get asked often, and I just wanted to put it in here real quick. Coaching is different than a therapist, which is different than just chatting up with a friend. So with a life coach such as myself, there is no prep work. You just show up, right? There's no homework. You don't have to worry about doing things after the session. This is us sitting together, whether it's in person or over Zoom, whatever you prefer, and essentially sitting together and looking at your brain, becoming more self-aware of why you're doing what you're doing, so we can create sustainable habit changes. After a few sessions, I promise you will start seeing results in how you are working, how you are thinking, and this will create the results you are looking for, promised. So with that being said, I'm actually offering 1 free session to try me. To try coaching with me. So use the code TAE, short for the Authentic Entrepreneur, and in an email, just send me an email at sam@samhardistycoaching.com. That's sam@samhardistycoaching.com. And in the subject, just say free coaching, TAE, and let me know more about the results you are looking for, and let's get that scheduled for free. There is 100% zero sales pitch at the end. It's literally just me offering this up to you as a free resource. I want to see you improve. I want to see you get better. I want to see you become that next version of yourself, that better version of yourself, and I am here to help you with that. So feel free, please use this offer, this resource, a free one-on-one coaching session with me. Use the code TAE. Send me an email at sam@samhardistycoaching.com to get this scheduled. Now back to the podcast.
I love all of those pieces of advice, because honestly, as you kept saying, it's like that's advice I would give to almost every entrepreneur. Like, get your CPA, get your lawyer, get your LLC, get your insurance, like, and just all the other fun things too. It's so super critical. I feel like a lot of people might romanticize the idea of starting a business. Oh, look at all this freedom. But when it comes down to it, along with that freedom comes a lot more responsibility than corporate 9 to 5 job where you are just saying, hey, just do this one aspect of the whole business. When you have your own business, you're doing the entire aspect of all the things. So I think it's really important to make sure you have those people in your corner. People, as you say, like you're an expert in your field. So, why expect yourself to be also an expert in, law and accounting law and, like all these other things too. Yeah. So I think that's huge advice. I feel like a lot of, especially women, we have this idea that we need to be able to do it all ourselves. So when you really take that step back and say, really just understand you won't be able to do everything all by yourselves, then I feel like just that knowing creates so much more understanding toward like being open to receiving help and then just accepting it too as it comes along. I think one of the things like when it comes to receiving help, a lot of women might view this as weakness, or just society in general. But in my opinion, I view it as so much strength, because it really takes that extra layer of yourself to be self-aware and realize when you need help or not. So I think it's super critical, to really just ask for help and receive help. And I love that. Okay, so speaking of when things are not going fabulous all the time, why is it important to just keep swimming, as they say? Essentially, when life gives you lemons, why should we make lemonade?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, kind of my overarching is that, I did the 9 to 5 and now I have my own business. And while absolutely, if it came down to it and I had to go back to a 9 to 5 to survive or to support my child or something, I could do it. But God, do I really not want to? Because it wasn't for me. It wasn't an environment I thrived in. It's not, it just, at the end of the day, I always say to myself, I would rather not have all of the material things
Mm-hmm.
and still have my own business and be doing my own thing versus having a 9 to 5 and having all this security and all this stuff. Like that, to me, that doesn't even matter. I would rather have my own business. I would rather grow my own business, and I would rather do my own thing and figure out ways to make it work. And really, it's just at the end of the day, it is sink or swim, but it's been the most rewarding journey for me outside of obviously motherhood. It's been the second most rewarding journey for me in my life, is having and growing my own business and just constantly working on making it better. And it all comes from you at the end of the day, because you're going to be the biggest advocate for your own business. So it's very rewarding and feels very fulfilling to work through struggles, to work through times. And granted, especially in Northeast Ohio, I could promise you're going to have struggle periods. This time of year through April is a struggle because hardly anyone gets married in the winter. It's Northeast Ohio. We hate winter. We all live here, but we hate winter. So, you might have some years where you get more stuff, and you might have some years where you have nothing, and you have to find creative ways of doing some side hustles or putting yourself out there to get more work regularly, or, again, if I was better, structuring how I save money throughout the year so that during winter time I could not hustle as much. But again, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the podcast, one of my biggest projects, if not my biggest project right now, is bringing on other members of like other subcontractors and stuff underneath my company, so that once wedding time hits, I'm able to send out multiple teams of people and increase my income even more so than I would ever be able to do on my own solo. So that will just not only, it'll increase my profit throughout the year, so I'm able to financially plan a little bit better. Something else that I changed last year in how I do deposits and stuff that exponentially helped me over winter time as far as cash flow. And this is a mistake that a lot of us make as artists because we're not thinking about it the right way. We're not like processing it the right way. but I started demanding 50% upfront with my deposits. Whereas in the past, I've only ever done like literally half down on the brides because I wanted a giant chunk of change closer to the wedding day. Like, oh yeah, I made all this money kind of thing. Cause that's how I was mentally processing it. But I was hurting myself every winter because I'm like only getting these tiny deposits coming in. And like, yeah, sure, I'm rolling in money in the summertime, but you know, over the wintertime, I'm struggling so bad. So once I really changed that last year, quite honestly, wintertime last year was a lot easier for me because I was getting those bigger deposits that came in and I was able to allocate and shuffle, you know, my cash flow around much easier than I was when I was taking deposits the other way. And I will never go back to take, at least for weddings, taking deposits that small.
Yeah.
I'll always do 50% down to start with. It truly just helps cash flow. And honestly, it helps the clients too. I mean, yeah, again, you feel really cool at the end when you get this giant paycheck, but you know how hard it is for a client to, you know, at the end, because they're paying every single vendor, like drop giant chunks of money on every single person. It honestly helps them out if they're able to split it up too. So, that has really helped me, I guess, in my more struggling periods, I would say. And that's definitely something, again, another piece of advice I would impart to artists is just start with that habit to start with and get into a better mindset of, you know, it's okay to ask for a bigger commitment up front. It's not going to, you know, it's not going to scare brides away. It's not going to, if they want to work with you, they're going to want to work with you. You know, no matter if they're giving you $1 up front or if they're giving you $500 up front, they're going to want to work with you. So don't use that as a deterrent for thinking that you're not going to get that client or something like that. And like I said, it helps tremendously for your cash flow and you're able to just plan so much better.
I love it. All right. Last question. What advice would you give to other women entrepreneurs to living their most authentic selves in life and in business?
To me, just the biggest thing is not letting fear rule your life. And that is very much it's a very much an easier said than done scenario because we all have facets of fear that hold us back from doing things. And eventually we get over those fears. And that's when we move ahead and that's when we grow and stuff. So, you know, for me, when it comes to growing a team and when it came to growing a team, I always knew that was an option in the back of my mind. But I always had this fear of like, what if I'm not a good manager? I don't particularly like managing people. What if something goes wrong and I am not there? Like just the myriad of things that could possibly go wrong. But I'm just letting fear talk at that point. I'm letting my own fears and my own biases and this own like really just ego talk through making bigger changes and making a better life for myself and my son because, oh, I don't want to worry about, you know, bringing on fabulous artists that can self-manage themselves, that they have their own businesses. And really, at the end of the day, they're just wanting to have more work and they're wanting to grow their portfolio. So why aren't they going to give the same amount of wonderful customer service that I come to expect, especially if I train them and especially if they know right up front what my expectations are. And if they don't meet those expectations, you don't have to hold on to them. They're not, you know, they're not my kid. I don't have to live with them for the rest of my life kind of a thing. So it's really just and this is just, it's not even just for makeup artistry, but any facet of your business, you're going to have stuff that pops up that you are afraid to do, that you're afraid of, that just pardon my French, but scares the shit out of you. And you're going to use it as an excuse not to grow, but don't. You know, sometimes the hardest, you know, again, for any entrepreneur, the hardest thing to kind of like let go and let control of, especially if you want to grow, is like the money that it's going to cost to grow in certain areas, especially if you want to hire a coach, if you want to take a course, something like that. Those tend to be higher ticket items, and a lot of people talk themselves out of it, out of the fear of losing that money. But they don't understand that by taking that course, if you make, you know, say the course costs whatever X number of dollars, think about it in the sense of like, oh, okay, if I book like 2 weddings, that pays for itself. It pays for itself. I could book 2 weddings. Like, come on, that's nothing. So you got to kind of think about it in those terms where for me, it's like I minimize the risk by really talking through what the true facts of the matter are and not using stuff, fears and whatnot to hold me back from what I know my true potential can be and what my business's true potential could be. So like I said, it's a lot easier said than done, but I think part of this advice comes with age. In my 20s, I would have probably never listened to myself and this advice, but somehow I magically turned 30, and the amount of less F's that I give about a lot of things is pretty staggering. But just in general, just don't let fear rule your life, not only for your business, but for your personal life. Just don't let the fear of everything dictate how you're going to live your life and how you're going to grow your business.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love all the things. And this is just so freaking exciting. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast here today. I'm so excited for everyone to hear all of the things about you and just get all this beautiful little like nuggets of wisdom throughout this entire podcast. So thank you so much. And I'm so excited for all that's to come with you.
Thank you so much for having me on as well. This was such an honor. I loved getting to interact with everybody and just,
It is offer time. Kaelyn is offering a fabulous discount for a limited time. Enjoy her full bridal makeup experience, including your preview and wedding day appointments and wedding day services for 6 bridal party or family members for just $99. This is a savings of $250 just by being a listener to the Authentic Entrepreneur podcast. What a freaking deal. So be sure to check all the links in the show notes to get your discount, your offer from Kaelyn. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Authentic Entrepreneur Podcast. I hope in between the words of this episode, you found more of your authentic self. It would mean the world to me if you 1, like this episode if you learned something new, 2, share this episode with a friend who you think needs to hear this, and lastly, 3, to follow and subscribe to this podcast. I want to hang out with you more. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram, send me a DM, wave hi, whatever floats your boat, all at Sam Hardesty Coaching. That's at Sam Hardesty Coaching on Instagram. And hey, look at you go, learning new things, becoming more self-aware and shit. Absolutely crushing it, my friend. Thank you so much. I love you. And until next time, stay authentic.